Here we go. All right, and now we're ready. Why are we always? Oh, I already hear dogs. Usually we gotta wait till the.
Somebody's ringing my doorbell. Shut up. All right.
It's me. I'm at your door.
Here it comes. Nobody's at
All
the
right.
door.
Nobody's at the door.
Welcome to Everyone Racers, a show designed for the world of low-dollar racing and oddball car culture. Doesn't matter what kind of Lemon-Champ or Lucky Track Dog league you run, SCCA or NASA, we won't discriminate, as long as you drive it hard and built it yourself. Join us each week for tech discussions, tips, tricks, as well as news and notes from the world of amateur endurance racing. And whether it's on the spot, hella sweet, or we're lucky enough and Chrissy gives us just the tip, we're sure you'll giggle a little and learn even less. Everyone report to the back.
It's still you. It always.
Oh, is it me? Do I start? I don't know. It was only two of us here.
It says this is Chris, which there is no Chris,
right.
and it says this is Chrissy. And
We'll just-
and then you say
I'm Jeff.
I'm mental.
There we go.
And we are Everyone Racers. Thanks so much for coming back to a Studebaker episode of our podcast. It's episode 259 in the Studebaker. 259 V8 was the Venerable car. It was in the Hawk. It was in the Commander. It was in all of their V8 powered stuff, range from 170 upwards to 190 horsepower. But Studebaker's not around anymore. So hopefully you'll stick around. And while you're sticking around, you'll check out that E1R bingo card. And as we do, we start with what you're working on. Jeff, what are you working on?
You're not going to say a bear in his natural habitat? A Studebaker?
Oh,
Okay.
Damn it.
All right.
I should have caught that one too.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what's happening here in New Jersey? If you're watching on YouTube, you probably realize that we already started some bait and switch. There is no Chris. There is no Chrissy this week. They're out on some sort of vacation and won't return in time or on a flight. I don't know, but
They were hiking.
they're hiking. Okay. So, it looks like I have jumped through every hoop and kicked the field goal through the ever-moving posts, and I now have a certificate of occupancy for the lovely home that I'm sitting in and have owned for the last 7 years and lived for the last 7 years.
There you go. That's where I was going to go with that.
So-
Is how long have you occupied?
Yeah.
Said occupancy, and this this all came from the squirrel in the attic / electric door.
No, it's the same place, but none
And
of
the
that was
flood.
what failed. None of that is what failed. What
No,
failed
but it was you were redoing everything.
I was, yeah. I did a lot of COVID projects and, took down railings and, but it doesn't matter. The guy showed up and said, well, when'd you install that pool? I was like, I bought this place with that pool. No, you didn't. Trust me, dude. I didn't. But anyway.
Those the safety railings I asked you about?
Yep,
Okay.
I had to get safety railings. So my brother Jim came over and helped us install the pool fence safety railing because my pool was too short and I had to rebuild part of my pool deck to make sure the gate closed and latches to keep out this magical 4-year-old who can climb anything that's less than 48 inches, but unable to reach a 56-inch latch, also unable to stop themselves from drowning in a 3'7" pool. I don't know. It's a little crazy. But all that is taken care of, and we have the CO, and hopefully a couple of financial steps away from improving my life for my family and maybe working on getting an outbuilding.
The pool is the only bigger money sink than racing. So congratulations on that new.
I'm not because you and I live in Las Vegas, and I know that it is cheaper for me to have my pool than it is for me to have a lawn.
They are both luxury items here in Las Vegas. Yeah, if you have a lawn, it's like you're just pouring money on top of it in the form of water on a daily basis. So
you just might as well just put money on your lawn. It would be cheaper.
Exactly.
That's like,
why
Rami got a Lamborghini. Ooh, but Mental's got a lawn.
No, Mental does not have a lawn. No, Mental does not have lawn.
I just meant like,
okay?
the
I'm doing all right, but I don't have grass money.
It's a whole different tier of people.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
Well,
All right.
Mental, why don't you tell us what you're working on in your lawnless
All right.
location.
So
of Las
I
Vegas.
mentioned I showed last week for Just the Tip what had happened to my RV tires, but now my RV is completely registered, which was required for that. Our big dog Rika is limping even more than usual, and she's got one leg she wants. So she had to go to the vet today. And they said her blood work still looks good. So she's just getting old. So I've been on Amazon looking for one of those doggy wheelchairs. And I've got to get her a full one because it's her front legs. And this is how you know Facebook is always listening, because that's now all my targeted ads on Facebook and Instagram is dog wheelchairs. So Class B Bachelor for holiday weekend. Vicky is in Omaha until next Wednesday. And I just got back from Utah Motorsports Campus. I just got back from Utah Motorsports Campus, working the weekend with Extreme Experience. Check them out if you're into this sort of thing. They don't have any new cars, nothing we haven't talked about. They've got the Huracan, the 488 GTBs, a multitude of GT3s, a GT4, the Shelby Mustang. But I
C8 too, right?
We had a C8, but and this is one of the things it sounds like I'm talking about the company. I'm not. General Motors did an over-the-air update on their C8, and midway through the update, car just choked. So it was like doing a Windows update. So basically this Corvette that is meticulously maintained was a brick all weekend. There's some very disappointed people.
I think it made that sound too of just Windows shutting down.
Dun, dun, dun. The slight dialophone thing there, and they're doing that. But while I was there, we talked about last week which car I was going to borrow. I had the Mini, choice of the Mini, the wagon, or the E30. And I went with the E30 for my buddy Grant, who was up there. And this may be the most perfect E30 I've ever driven. It's period correct. It's got a set of Borbit 5 stars on it. It's just a little bit lowered. It's an S52 swap. It's got the shifter from one of the Z coupes. The brakes have all been upgraded to Mazda RX-7. It's brakes, so it just works really well. It's got a header. It's got an exhaust on it, which is loud, but you would drive it through your neighborhood at normal revs coming home at 11 o'clock at night. So it's not stupid. It's got a nice period correct digital tiny stereos with the CD player in it. And just, it feels so very 80s. The analog gauges and everything works on the car. And also just to make sure it feels perfectly 80s, the speedometer is about 10 miles an hour optimistic, but what a great car. Couldn't thank Grant.
It ends at 80 miles per hour as well, right? Like it stops at 80.
Yeah. Well, it's German, so this one goes to 120.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Nice.
And then while I was there, Grant let me drive his R32 Skyline. Oh, that's an awesome car. Yeah. If you're in the market for one of those, R33 Skyline, they aren't cheap, but this one is probably one of the better ones in the country. Yeah. Let me know. Well, I'll put you guys in touch. And as you have no doubt noticed, savvy listener, we are absent Chris and Chrissy because they are enjoying the hiking trails of the beautiful Northeast before it gets miserably cold. And you have noticed a new voice, and that voice is Duane Wik. Now, he is a Porsche enthusiast here in Las Vegas and creator of Wik's Garage, which is a YouTube channel about his 75 911 and now 914.
Yes, sir. Yes, indeed.
Yeah, absolutely. So we will have links to all of that. And he is half of the host of the Dirt or Die podcast. So Duane, what you working on?
Yes, indeed. Mental, thank you for that fabulous introduction. And Jeff, pleased to meet you, sir. Next time I'm in Jersey, I will definitely exit the right exit and hit you up and we'll hang out. I'm working on my 914. It's a new project. I have a 911, which I kind of cut my teeth on. And I think in this, we want to talk about the fact that anybody can wrench on their car, right? In any space. I want to start that from the outset because that's how I started.
Well, and we're going to get there. We're going to go down to the,
I won't jump the gun. Okay.
Yeah, no,
this is just, what have you touched lately?
What have I, okay. Today, window seals. I mean, my fingers are bleeding. Like they hurt so bad because I'm pressing the 914 seal in on the outer door and I'm like crying. And now I'm on landscape duty because our buddy Eric,
Our buddy Eric K is driving to work right now, and he suddenly just grabbed his thumbs and had like a flashback
Yeah.
because he understands what you're talking about.
Yeah, so he is a he's got one of them air cooled Beetles Porsches. I don't know which.
So
he's
does
got
Yeah.
he's got a 914 he's had since high school. He
Oh,
drives
cool.
his Cayman S to work every day. It's absolutely disgusting how much this guy loves his Porsches. So he'll need to know exactly what 914 you have.
Yeah, it is a 75 Laguna Blue. If you're on 914 World, check out the thread, the build thread. And I have a 76 Targa 2.7 flat six that I'm gonna stuff in there, and I'm gonna convert to 5-lug wheels. Get rid of I have fake Fuchs. I actually thought it had the real Fuchs on it when I bought it. Unfortunately, the first time I picked them up, I'm like, these feel heavier than they should be. And sure enough, I look on the back and it's American Wheel Company, which was total buzzkill, because a heavy cast wheel versus a forged, lightweight Fuchs. So that made me say, hey, I'm going to do the five lug conversion, because I have 3 sets of wheels for my 75. So let's use one of those sets.
We need to talk about what you're going to do with those knockoff 4-lug Fuchs.
They're available. Yeah, brand new tires, by the way.
We'll catch up because we've talked. I've got
Direct from China.
That's right.
There we go.
So you said Laguna Blue. I always say this when we have a Porsche file on the podcast. You know what that is right there?
Is
For those of you not watching YouTube.
That's a 914 engine cover.
And what color is it?
Oh man.
And I don't know either.
It's that
lizard
Crayola,
green.
that
I think it
Crayola
is.
electric gray.
Yeah, it's looking great.
JP's screaming at us right now.
Of course. And our good friend Bradley Brownell was like, Jeff, are you going to talk about that 914 on your wall? And then he even said the color. And I was like, dude, I didn't even. So that's why it's a
The 70s had the best Skittles colors. Honestly, there's so many great weird colors, like browns and greens and blues. So
oranges.
Orange, yes.
Love
Thank
the
you.
oranges.
I have a friend who adamantly believes that the decline of society and good-natured people getting along as we know it is a direct result of the fact that cars have all become silver and gray and beige and boring, as opposed to the 70s when even the brown cars were just pretty and everything was Crayola colored around you. So you were just inspired to be polite.
Even beige would be something nice these days. It's white, black,
I totally agree.
White, black, silver.
So boring. You just drive around and like, it's just a sea of exactly that, white, black, and silver.
Yep.
Well, anyway, we're going to move on to our next segment, which is news and notes time. Go ahead.
In some bad news, Andy Didorowski and the amazing team over at the Detroit Bus Company, they were robbed last week. Catalytic converter thieves did about $10,000 worth of damage to their fleet and their bus depot tools and stuff like that. If you don't remember, Andy Didorowski is the guy that formed Detroit Student Racing Team. So he went to inner city schools and found kids that had mechanical aptitude, but not the opportunity, and put him on his Lemons teams. And they are all amazing. They are urban high schoolers, getting them in there and getting them exposed to problem solving. And everyone in the Midwest loves this team because those kids are just so great. They partner with need agencies and they give rides to locals and they augment the school system. So short version, this is a great human being doing great things in his community. And as a result of being robbed in typical Andy fashion, he doesn't want a handout. He's not asking for anything. He said, when you're in Detroit, come and take a tour, which you absolutely should do. But what you can do also right now is go and buy some hand sanitizer that they started making during the pandemic and buy a t-shirt. In fact, buy 2, one for you and one for someone you care about. I have 2 and I just bought one for my wife. So they're cool shirts. All right. And everybody in Lemons wears black t-shirts anyway. And I have been authorized to say this: anyone that arrives in an inspection or penalty box, the 24 Hours of Lemons, specifically the one coming up here at High Plains Raceway, and you've got a Detroit bus sticker or a bus t-shirt on, you will get mercy.
Sure. That's great. We love Andy. I follow his TikTok. He has bought some sort of factory out there in Detroit and is going to try and like start a new car company or some bizarre
That's the Andy.
thing. Yeah,
oh,
that
I totally
Andy,
follow that guy.
Yeah.
That guy's awesome.
Yeah.
Oh.
He's a good
Wow.
friend of ours.
Small
Know him
world.
very well.
Okay.
Well, I just he is just this wonderful. I love Detroit, and I refuse to let it go. And I'm going to make it I'm going to make Detroit and the world a better place. Yeah.
Nice.
Well, on to things that make a world a worse place. Elizabeth Blackenstock at Jalopnik is pointing the folks to an NPR investigation into, get this, the dealerships. We know these places. They're just, damn dealership model needs to die. But they focus on getting as much money out of you as possible. And the news is as bad or worse if you think old people are their prime targets, minorities are worse off, and women pay the most of all. The marketing term is price discrimination, and that's instead of charging everyone the same price. As we know, dealerships base their price on what they think you are willing or gullible enough to sign on. Greg Rosalski at NPR states, quote, "It means that the seller milks as much money out of you as they can. Some quick advice to get your non-gearhead friends or family: don't trade in your car when buying. In addition to being less profitable, it signals a willingness to pay for convenience. Watch for all those hidden fees and overpriced add-ons like floor mats, alarm systems, anti-rust coating, nitrogen-filled
That's a classic.
tires, market adjustment. Oh, it's terrible. But this is a terrible market, and we know that. And you can expect to pay sticker or above. The author states that even with the lawyer's spouse and writing this story, he recently paid $2,000 over sticker. Boy, caveat emptor, if you don't know what that means. Emptor. I took Latin in high school, and I think it means buyer beware.
Yes, it does.
All right. Now, finally, Victoria Scott over at The Drive tells us that in Norway, a group of Tesla owners went on a hunger strike to protest their car's terrible build quality and the lack of support. The goal of such a drastic action, they wanted to get the attention of Elon Musk and put pressure on Tesla of Norway. The problem is the owners couldn't actually stay hungry. 16 of the 20 protesters couldn't get through a day without a snack. And then the whole thing was just over in 24 hours. I mean, I can empathize, but I'm only trying to lose a few pounds. Link is in our show notes.
Those are my people, the Norwegians. Yeah, we're hungry.
I was going to say,
because we're very tall.
I was going to say Tesla drivers. Not that I don't love electric cars. Elon's just a nut job. So we all like to buy stuff, and we're going to be talking a little bit later about optimizing your shop and where to focus when you're starting out, and how to, put wheels on stuff to make it mobile. And we're going to put up an extreme way to carry your tools around. Mental, do you have that up?
I do. There it is.
On the racingjunk.com, how about a 42-inch pit box on wheels to carry all of your stuff from your probably double stacker Detroit diesel pusher?
I don't know. This one's small enough to where if you just had like one trailer, and it would hook up behind your Lemons car because it's got the big pneumatic tires and real brakes.
But yeah, so this is the extreme way that you can get out there and get your wrenching on, and it's on racingjunk.com for a mere $3,100 for a motor. Is it motorized? I think it is motorized. No, it's not. Just a pull.
And if you look at the I pulled that one up on purpose because as my internet is now going to betray me, I was looking just at mobile pit boxes, and they can range upwards of, just for these pull along behinds. Okay, this will be where I use
15,000 plus.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
and
yeah,
they
yeah.
are the size of
They're
that
up there.
Snap-on box that you're already paying on. Anyway, if you can find them used though, it's a neat little bargain, and especially when you get to go in there. And everything on Racing Junk, they sell them new, they sell them used from old teams. And the reason we say go to Racing Junk is it is free to browse and it is free to advertise. So
Nice.
There you go.
Garage accessories there.
I could add wheels to my general toolbox and turn that into a pit box like that if you want.
Absolutely.
$1,000.
Jeff loves himself some Icon. In fact, when we were at SEMA here a couple of years ago, he actively sought them out and like stood in the toolbox and did all the stuff on testing out those icons.
Yeah, there's some
Not
great
related
kit
to
boxes out there.
the Ford Bronco company.
No. The Harbor Freight high quality tool.
What they're calling the Harbor Freight
Oh,
tool.
really? Oh, okay.
Yeah, the
Snap-on
Harbor
killer.
Freight tool truck. And they are every bit of that level of quality, and they're about half the price. So
Still richer than my blood. I have like one of them.
Hashtag they should totally sponsor us.
Absolutely.
You really should. We are your market.
We're going to get to that in just a few minutes when we get to our main topic. Let's talk about some upcoming races. What we got?
Just this weekend, Champ Car is at Thompson for the Thompson. That's what they're calling it. They get a sponsor for this one. 44 cars, 11 BMWs.
Oh, boring.
Boring. 25%.
25% BMWs.
Right. 17 Miatas.
Oh, that's like 65% boring.
Exactly. 2 Hondas, 4 Porsches, and some fools in a 93 Mitsubishi Eclipse.
93, that's second gen. That's the same year I owned. Nice. That's awesome. Yeah, let's get to some listener feedback time. I feel like we're running through this. We're like, everybody said when Mental and Jeff are on, we're not going to have any throttles and they're going to talk too much.
Show ain't over yet, Jeff.
Let's
not make
listener
that
feedback. Last week we had the solving mysteries at the track episode, and Michael K gave us some great tips. He said if you have a traditional Dizzy distributor, and a common failure on a lot of the Bosch distributors, which is all of your older Euro stuff and all the Chrysler stuff, inside the cap is the rotor button that fails. So after getting no spark at a plug or a wire, you test the coil wire the same way you would do in the plug, and you find that basically the coil wire works, the wire itself works, but the distributor isn't distributing it on. So check that rotor button in the middle of your Dizzy there.
All right. And if you have a common known failure item like the MAF or MAP ignition module, even as far back as the 90s, you cannot trust a new part to actually work for the purpose of troubleshooting Swaptronics, i.e., like Chris was saying, pull each wire until the engine doesn't change its tune. That's swapping stuff out. But your old MAF sensors, when your car is actually running well during a pre-race test and tune, you install those new or unknown conditions you pulled out of the junkyard parts, and you run the car until it gets good and warm. Now you have to test all of the known good ones. So if you went and pulled a stack of these unobtainium ignition coils or a MAF, something like that from the junkyard, you've got to get them hot to see if they're going to be good or not. And then make sure you mark them known or bad, or, well, don't mark them bad, throw them away.
Yeah, this actually happened with the 3.8 liter swapped RX-7 at the last race, where they had put in a brand new motor and they were convinced the motor is good, and then it won't fire and it won't run and it won't fire and it won't run. And they said, well, we just put on that new alternator. That must be it. They swapped alternator. They swapped on the old one. Turns out their engine was blown. They had a broken, I think it was a valve, right?
Yeah,
I don't remember. It was a
Canuter valve.
Yeah, exactly. No, head valve.
Knudsen valve. Yeah.
Knudsen valve, yeah. A Chevy 3800 dropped 3 valves in the same, whatever.
All right.
But anyway, they were doing the same thing.
You're answering the mail on this, because this wasn't us. This was Eric. And I adamantly disagree, because not only is that a great race, and that's a great race car that they're showing down there in Houston, our friend Tim Bagnall is considering buying one of these for a Lemons car as well.
Yeah, so of course, last week we did the AMCs and which AMCs are cool, and Patrick Llewellyn, who is a known AMC racer, chimed in to refute our selection that a late 70s AMX was cool.
No, we said it wasn't.
Oh, I love the AMX.
Yeah. Well,
It's
he
awesome.
runs a Gremlin. Patrick does. So
And
I don't
an
know
AMX.
And an AMX, yeah. The Spirit AMX.
And actually,
not the original AMX.
They drive that Gremlin to the track sometimes.
Yeah. So clearly they're drinking their own Kool-Aid down there in Texas, right? I think Patrick's from Texas. So yeah. Oh, okay. So I'm pulling up the picture right now so we can make fun of his AMX. Is it orange? Is it trying to be the?
No, that was the factory color. Remember, we were just talking about.
Well, no, I just didn't know if this was supposed to be some sort of
happier. In
general.
fact, if you look in the distance, That's their Gremlin.
Oh, let me see here.
Oh, right.
Show
Yeah,
the
in front of it. I see
Oh,
it.
look
Yeah.
at that. Yeah, there's
That's
the
coming
red, white,
around-
and, red, white, and
Coming around
blue.
the 1 and 2, right where you ran from the pits.
Yeah, I didn't know
Oh.
if this was some sort of General Lee.
No,
theme.
no, that is a
'Cause
factory
the-
AMX paint scheme.
Oh,
That's
because
dope. I love
See,
that.
and we, you know, Jeff, you're always trying to tell me to not genderize things. We're talking, and you're 100% right when you say that. You need to stop General Lee-izing everything that's orange.
Well,
You know,
it was the
sometimes
font.
sometimes orange is just a great color.
It was the font on the 402 here that was giving me General Lee vibes.
It does look a little, I'll give it to you.
Yeah. Little.
And maybe, and there's a Confederate flag on the roof too. So I mean, I don't know what that means.
There's
There you go.
there's an AMC flag on the roof. I've seen that car.
I've never raced it with these guys, but I'm sure Mental you have. So
Oh, they're fantastic. You'd
Yeah.
love them.
he said hashtag triggered disgrace to the AMX name. Thank you, Patrick, for chiming in, but we know you're lying.
Are the doors welded shut? That's all I want to know.
Not
Whoa.
allowed in most cases in lemons unless you cut
Oh,
a big
right.
enough hole to get out. They want you to be able to get out of the car.
All right.
Now, finally on the Facebook, Eric K asked what we, the Three Pedal Mafia, not me, because I was in Georgia I was in the Middle East.
Sure.
When we fixed on the Ombre to get it to finger quote run well before we sold it to Garage Heroes. And the answer is really, we sold them a broken, it was a fuel measuring airflow ratio issue. So we sold them a broken running without the MAF plugged in and adding a fuel
It's
cell.
fine.
Made it
It's
run
fine.
Citroën better.
It's totally fine. Totally fine. Don't worry
totally
about
fine.
it.
It's totally fine. Totally fine.
So Mental, I want to bring up that we recently had a great run in the Lemons wrap-up video. I don't know if you've seen it yet or not. I know you've seen it because we talked about it before the podcast. So Duane, they do a wrap-up video for every single race, and we were on it a lot, but I gotta take
Very cool.
I gotta take a little dig out of the Lemons staff, because they gave Chrissy's mom a shout out on the video because of the Garage Heroes Chrissy's mom's cookies. But they thought Chrissy's mom was driving the car. I don't think they knew that it was Chrissy, whatever.
But here's the thing. You know who could drive a Lemons race car to success and never even go to the track? Just send out those vibes.
There you go.
Chrissy's mom.
Hi to Chrissy's mom. I wonder if she's listening because Chrissy's not here. Or they just skipped this episode.
Yeah,
Probably.
she probably started listening and long ago
That's
said
true.
no.
We also should mention that they didn't mention that Chrissy ran the barbecue, so we'll say hi to Chrissy. And they didn't mention that Eric Kritzler was the leader of the band, so shout out.
But they did show Eric K.
They did
play,
show
so.
the band. So yeah, there it is. I guess Chrissy gets skipped. Put that on your bingo card. She's not even here, and Lemon skipped her.
Oh,
Oh,
that's
boy.
a good one. You're in trouble for that, but it's funny. So
I'm
This
angry
is-
on her behalf since I'm kind of filling in for her.
there
you
you go. Hey, blonde people. He is Chris and Chrissy. That's why he's 7 feet tall. He's
Sure.
filling in for R2.
I ate her.
Actually, in a fair fight or even an unfair fight, we're all losing to Chrissy. Seriously.
That'd be a
works out.
gluten-free meal, though.
Yes, true. Yeah, then you would be gluten free. All right, we're getting
Way off
down a
topic.
stupid rabbit hole here.
Main topic time. Go ahead.
Excellent. Jeff and I both started out our wrenching career, and Jeff even had a background, but we started out with no place to work on our car. I remember now I was early on in the military, I had access to auto hobby shops, but I also did a lot of stuff in parking lots. And the same thing when I had apartments. I didn't have a garage in anything that I'd actually bought until 2003. Everything else I had on-street parking or a driveway or something. I've never had a place to store tools or things like that. And then even the first garage I had was, taken up by stuff I needed to work on cars, and it was just arranged badly. So what we're going to be talking about is if you're just getting into this hobby, you've got limits, and you've got storage limits, and you've got tool limits. And not only do you have limits on purchasing those tools, but also things to keep them in, because you're going to get tired of having them all in a cardboard box and having to shuffle through them. So what we're going to talk about is, where do you prioritize your early purchases as you're starting out? Because all three of us, including Duane, we were amateur mechanics. We don't get paid to spin wrenches. Never have. We actually do it, out of, I think, an enjoyment or maybe addiction. I don't know on that one. So that's what we're going through. So to that end, early on, we're talking about what you're working on. You were going to say something about getting into this, how you were excited for this topic.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think the beginning is parking lots. You're right. Like high school, you can't do it in your family's driveway or in their garage, because you'll face the wrath of your parents, right? So what do? You head over to a friend's house. You head over to a huge empty, whatever, Walmart parking lot.
Oh yeah.
And you do your basic wrenching, with your, $20 set of screwdrivers and whatever else you got to try to fix whatever it is that you need fixed. Now, my first foray into, I guess, like working on the car was actually speaker equipment. If you're like me and you grew up, high school in the 90s, you had the obscene subwoofer, your home built box that you had in whatever back seat. My buddy had a Rabbit, and
Nice.
we built the what we dubbed the SMB, which stands for the Shitmo box, because our woodworking skills were so terrible that I think that if he were to hit the brakes too hard, the box would collapse upon itself. It had like no structural integrity. It was kind of built around a really cheap 15-inch subwoofer that we picked up from Audio Express in Phoenix. So for me, it started out as audio equipment, and then you start to wire up better stereo systems.
And then your friend wants one, and you have to put one in his car, and then it starts to balloon, right?
It's whoever's best at wiring gets to be like the installer for like everybody in your high school. So it's like, oh, I heard you actually, are pretty decent at, hooking up this Rockford Fosgate amplifier that I just got. And that kind of job is, it's difficult. Usually you're on your back underneath like the fuse panel in the well.
In the Lotus position. Because, if you own a Lotus, you might as well just get there, right?
I would love to own an Esprit Turbo. That's always been a dream car of mine, by the way. But yeah, I mean, it's wiring. It starts out as wiring. It starts out as your basic bolt-on, friendly local auto parts store, like we said, Mental.
The flaps.
And the flaps. You're buying like cool chrome lug nuts. You're buying stickers. Sorry, but these are the things that you start out with in the parking lot in high school.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah.
I luckily grew up with my mother's father, so my grandfather was a diesel mechanic. So wrenching in the next to the curb, not in the driveway, because couldn't get any grease in the driveway, but wrenching in front of the house was allowed, but storing my things in the garage, not allowed.
Mm-mm.
So of course I was, carrying them down the stairs from my bedroom or up the stairs from the basement to take them out to the car to wrench. And and then, first apartment, set of stairs away from the parking lot. So, the amount of times you had to carry that box up and down the stairs was debilitating.
My first toolbox was just a red, handheld toolbox with the plastic tray that came with the
yes.
Oh yeah.
That's right. Like Jeff's talking about carrying a big toolbox. I had one that just didn't come out of the car.
Yeah, I had one of them too. Because why? Don't take it out if you're gonna have to wrench on the car.
But that was the entirety of my tool set, and it wasn't even like a good Craftsman, mechanics tool set. It was like Kmart tools.
Yeah, I did start my world with a Craftsman mechanic set, but it lived in the back of my '73 International Scout, so it got used a lot.
You know what's interesting about like today's, say you're 16 and you're in the car hobby, you can buy a huge set for relatively, like all your metric sockets, a bunch, standard sockets, everything, for a couple $100. That kind of stuff really wasn't available back in
No.
our day. Like we
No.
had the high-end tools, we had hand-me-down tools, and then we had like retail, like you said, like Sears and whatever, Walmart, I guess.
Yeah,
at the time.
but
Yeah,
well, but Sears actually still had the reputation of having good stuff, and then you had Husky with Lowe's.
Husky, yes.
Yeah,
Or
and then
Home Depot. Isn't Husky Home Depot?
Who could tell? They've changed
Yeah.
hands so many times.
that is true. But you're right. I mean, I remember everything was either Craftsman or it was Chinese junk. And then the other thing is you could, having tools delivered, having things you need, your choices of where to get tools was painfully limited. And especially when I was wrenching, if you needed metric, you had to like shop around because
Yeah, that was hard to get.
we have freedom sizes here. And and then forget any sort of a specialty tool. You were going to have to go to the dealer and order that, and it was going to hurt. And it was usually a GM dealer.
The saving grace to metric was like the Chevy S10, because that came out, it was like all metric. So like everybody all of a sudden needed metric tools for like all the GM stuff. And now you start to see metric across the board at your flaps.
Yes, because back then you wouldn't get shamed needing a metric tool for your Chevy. You got shamed needing a metric tool for your Japanese car, or European. Why?
Your 84 Nissan Sentra. So actually the first car I wrenched on, it was my brother's. So anyway, yeah, I mean,
wait a minute. I have known you now for 12 years. And this is the first time you're telling me, growing up as the son of a mechanic, the first car you wrenched on was your brother's Sentra, because that is the most Jeff and Jim thing ever.
Yeah, grandson of a diesel mechanic. My father could not wrench on a single thing, but
he's
yeah,
he's a rallyist.
He got a hand-me-down from my parents 84 Nissan Sentra that was brown, going back to when their colors were decent, and he blew it up while he was at college. I drove it once, and the transmission fell out of it. So,
this is, if you know the relationship, Jim. Wonderful human being, but Jeff fixes all of his cars, and he calls Jeff, "Hey, I need new tires. Hey, Jeff, I need new things." And he's on our race team. He is incredibly intelligent. He builds robots.
But going back to Duane says, he wires things. Well,
that's where it all starts.
Yeah, that's true.
I want to touch on what you just said, Jeff, which was, wait, what did you just say? The wires threw me off.
Wrenching on his first car, hand-me-down
the
car. The hand-me-down car for the brother, the hand-me-down tools. Yeah.
I lost it. It's gone.
Or just learning to, if you had a sibling, you learn to wrench on their car. I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, so let's talk about someone out there who might be space limited. I think we've covered some tool tips, and we can do some more of that. But yeah, let's talk about for a very long time, Mental and myself both, it was well into our wrenching careers before we had a driveway of our own or a garage. I currently do not have a garage where I can put a vehicle. And when I lived on the mountain up in North Jersey, I had like the South 40, like the woods where I could put stuff. And I had a dirt driveway. And I got to tell you, in the Northeast up here, the mud and the rust when you store things on dirt is like hell of a problem. So I didn't know. Now I live down in suburban South Jersey outside of Philly. And, I moved from like a bigger 2-car to like a tiny little 1-car, and I can't even fit my tools in it. So I began renting, and I know Mental rents at the moment for his RV and stuff, but I rented a 40-foot space in an RV storage lot. And I got to tell you, like, did the math, and it made better economic sense to put down a gravel driveway than it did to continue to store things off site. So in about 18 months, it was, less, it was about $100 a month that I was paying to store. It was better to build, a gravel driveway in New Jersey than it was to continue renting space. And
your neighbors might have a difference of opinion.
Well, luckily I moved a fence So the gravel driveway is half behind the fence and half in front of the fence so that I can keep my projects away from the neighbors and the inspectors. Like right now, the crashed race car is behind the fence and the enclosed trailer is in front of the fence.
The
But
blown
for
up race
years-
car is,
The blown up race car is inside the trailer.
and the Studebaker is. or
I don't have a
the
Studebaker,
internet.
but
Sorry,
the
the international.
international's in the driveway.
You know what my dad used to call internationals?
Yeah,
Intercoursenals.
it's right. He's right. So
And if you've owned one, you know why.
exactly. So anyway, that's Jersey. I wanted to hear what you guys are doing out there in the desert for storage, outdoor storage, indoor storage. Where can you put a car you need to
Well,
hide
and
from
before
the
we get
family?
there, what was your first wrenching environment, Duane, that you like yours that you had, like your first apartment, or did you just go straight into the house, or?
It's a tough one. My dad was very particular about his garage, and he didn't want kids in there goofing around. And what's weird is like I wasn't interested in being a gearhead until later in life, and I think I learned a lot of it kind of externally, or like through osmosis a little bit, not through direct teaching, although there was some direct teaching. But as a result of that, I wasn't really allowed to wrench in his garage, and he had snap-on tools.
Oh.
He had hot rods.
That's why you weren't
He
allowed
had-
to wrench in his garage. He would forever never have a 10 millimeter. Yeah.
I mean, I exaggerate a little. Like he had his tools, and like if you put the 12 millimeter in backwards, he knew that you were in his toolbox, and he wasn't going to go crazy on you, but he was just like, what were you
in
doing?
my
And-
tools.
yeah. Long story short, I think my first true space to wrench was well into my 30s. So in my 20s, I jumped around to different colleges, and it was parking lots, and I actually had a Chevy S10 extended cab with a Corvette motor in it that I
Nice.
drove to East Texas. And I did some basic, oil changes and maintenance and stuff in a lot in the Texas humidity. I had my basic toolkit there.
East Texas. Yeah.
East Texas.
God,
Yeah,
that's
it was
just-
rough. So, but I
Be
mean,
outside.
I think, when my wife and I bought our first home, it had a detached garage, and I was loving it. I had a 37 Plymouth that I was going to hot rod. I was going to do all this stuff to, and I just didn't have the money at the time. So my toolkit stayed basic really until I think I was in my late 30s. Like I had a very basic toolkit, and then the passion really started to creep in. I upgraded to a Harbor Freight $300, roller tool chest. And
That's what I pull my tools in right now.
yeah, like the thing is, I feel like if you're just starting out, it's not necessarily about the tools. It's more about getting the experience. So whatever you can do to get in there, pull the engine, and then upgrade as you go. It's like, I have this philosophy with the cars. Some of the cars I build, get it running, and then that inspires you to keep going and to make small upgrades. If it's a full-on project, it's way harder to keep motivation up in the project. Same goes with your toolkit. Like start out small. You don't need to buy all the crazy stuff. And then one day you're like, I need a decent
Spring compressor.
Yeah, whatever it is.
Like, that's
or
like
pickle
always-
fork.
Yeah. Oh
Like,
yeah.
I never bought
absolutely.
a pickle fork until like a year ago. I was like, you know what? I finally need a pickle fork. I can afford it now. So
the pickle
Well,
fork
it
is
is-
cheap. It's the tie rod popper that on Harbor Freight. That's an amazing tool. I tell everybody.
I'll
go
say,
buy that.
yeah,
It's great.
I've had a pickle fork just because I had to buy it to do one specific job. It's a terrible pickle fork. And I think it is probably cost me $500 in ball joint. Because it destroys the boots. But Jeff talked about this, and then having the tool that does the job, and then having the tool that makes that job easier. That's something you can look
Yeah.
into.
That's
started
the
out.
luxury.
Yeah.
is making it easier.
Right. I started out, it's similar situation. My dad sold cars, so he hated them. And unless it was on fire, we just weren't going to wrench. He was going to just give it to me. I'll drive it to the shop and
Sell
I'll
it
have
and
the
be
boys.
gone.
No, I'll have the boys fix it. Cause
Oh,
you know,
okay.
he worked at a car dealership. So I didn't do his stuff. And I remember he came home one time and the hood was up on my Mustang and he's like, "What's the matter with it?" And nothing. I was just, no, then close the hood. Why is it up? So also not encouraged to be a gearhead. And I think I was driven to be a incompetent wrench by financials, because I always wanted cars that I couldn't afford. So I would buy the most unmaintained versions of them with predictable results. So you're just trying to learn how to wrench. And while you're in that world, what's interesting is how quickly those habits just take permanent hold because they're your first habits. And I always default to the cheapest item. And when I remember we'd been married about a year, and wife and I were at the mall looking for something. And we were walking through Sears and she's like, why do you not have a good tool set? Because you do this stuff all the time. She's like, no, stop that. And we walked over and started looking at not the stupid ones, but the nice 150, 250, 350 mechanic sets. And, I had to force myself to use them, and it's so much better when you have a nicer tool. And
was it like the dolly zoom and Jaws, when like that moment and you're like, I got good tools. Boom.
I did have that moment when we moved back to Georgia, and I was actually having to build a workbench to store all the tools. And I'm like, God, I have so many tools. Yes. To a degree that I probably got a bunch that I just didn't know how to use, but it was one of those, I have money, I'm buying nice tools now. And then the space thing, I started out in an apartment where you could get away with a little bit, but too much. And they, start citing you on the rent. And then I remember, you kind of knew which parking lots you could go to, but even that was miserable because you're just laying in hot, unmaintained pavement and it's rocky. And even if you were cool enough to have a creeper, it wasn't going to work. So you're, going through that.
Creeper over gravel never works.
And how many of us had the creeper that had the butt like broken out of it, like the hand-me-down creeper? Did anyone else have that? Where it was just like,
no, I had the wheel missing, so you had to lean on one side. Like if you lean, it would clunk.
So for every year, my wife always gets me some really nice tool that she's a brilliant gift giver, and it's something I casually mentioned. And she got me the creeper stool set. That matched. You could put the tools down there because she was tired of seeing me, do the flopping fish under a car. And
wait a minute, mental. Let me get Instagram listening. So I want the ads to be served on that, because that sounds really cool.
So I was using it, in an improper way, as I'm inclined to do, and the bench broke on that, and I could not stand the thought of like sitting on the broken wheelie stool. So it took me 3 days. I took it apart, found another correct piece of wood, sanded it down, got it under there, and put it all back together, restapling the seat foam and everything, so I wouldn't have that broken. I still have that stool. It's like 14 years old.
That's awesome. I got to tell you real quick, we were at 900 Series today, which is the Porsche shop here in Vegas that Tony owns, and we were looking at 914 bumpers. Someone had taken a yardstick and integrated it into the rubber portion of an old school like 914 front bumper. It just made me think of that, like what people use to fix things with. I'm sure you used a good piece of wood, but this guy used a yardstick to fix a bumper.
That is perfect, because you're just trying, like, how long? Crap, wrench.
We know it was straight and flat, at least. So I mean, the idea behind it was good.
So I mentioned my grandfather was a diesel mechanic. He owned every piece of material that had ever been cut off anything, and found ways to repurpose it. Like he could he had, a little
he was a pioneer. They call that upcycling now.
No, this is child of the Depression. I mean, obviously he was older than that, but he could like reach into between the rafters of his garage and pull out that one piece of, quarter round wood or box
Mm-hmm.
channel or L bracket that he used for something else 3 years ago, and he knew where it was, and he could weld anything but the crack of dawn. And it was everything. Now, and we talked about your dad's snap-on tools. I have my grandfather's tools.
Mhm.
But when
That's awesome.
I reach for the tool that is most comfortable to me, it's still that socket set that I got in high school. It's
Mhm.
still that metric Craftsman 6-point deep set that I bought in college. Like, there are so many of the when you get comfortable with a set, and it's exactly what Mental said about, like, it morphs, it evolves. Like,
You know
you,
what you can do with that set.
and you know
Like,
where your stuff is and what it is and where to find it and where to grab it. I mentioned the spring compressor, right? We all have, little coilover spring, probably McPherson strutted cars that we got to change a strut on. Man, the difference between a crappy spring compressor and I don't even want to say expensive, but like the right spring compressor.
Yeah, otherwise you get those, basically it's just screw channels with a couple of clamps on them, and you see the channels start to bend a little bit, and you still like store it outside because it is going to snap at any moment.
that's a whole subgenre of TikTok videos. It's just springs like killing people from like homemade like spring compressors.
Duane, we'll have to trade TikTok names later so we can follow each other.
There you go. Yep.
Well, all of our TikToks are Jeff's.
That's true.
So before we move on, because we talked about tools and we've talked about space, are there any tips that you would offer younger folks out there about how or when to upgrade? Like, Duane, you talked about, you got the space before you really got into it. And, Jeff, I imagine a lot of your wrenching was out of necessity, but how did you learn to start asking around, renting garages? Where can you find that kind of stuff? And then also, I think there's a whole new world out there available for people that want to upgrade tools with all of your different local marketing things. In our day, in my day, you had to read the Thrifty Nickel and just hope that you happened to be looking for what they were.
So
Then you had
old.
to call them, and then they had to be home, or you had to leave a message, and it took you 3 days to make a connection. And then they had to give you directions to get to their place. And, just like Facebook, hey, that is not what you talked about, but you can certainly find the market for pre-owned items, especially specialty items, a lot simpler now. Are there tips that you guys use for that?
So there is an entire genre on YouTube about who makes what tools. And I think you're paying a lot of times for a name when you could like follow the Tool Bear. There's all these other people who
where
really,
you can buy high-end tools at Harbor Freight that are made in the same company Milwaukee or
exactly, or an Amazon brand you've never heard of, but it is the exact same line as that Matco or that other quality tool. So do the research and don't shop by price but not by name, because unless you're getting it from the tool truck, you can't be guaranteed that it's an American made different product than you can get elsewhere.
I disagree with that, because depending on your budget.
Oh yeah.
If you're comfortable in life financially, you buy the Matco, you buy the Snap-on, because you're overpaying, number one, but number two, you are guaranteeing less hassle. So on some of those tools that are built in the same factory, they do use some cheaper components, like the trigger mechanism is not the same trigger mechanism, or the battery isn't the same battery, whatever it is. So I do think that if you have the means, you do go brand name all the way, because it's not foolproof, but it is almost a guarantee that it's gonna.
I would say that buying the higher end thing is both the thing that you guys got to do that I didn't, where it's you're bonding with that tool set. Just because for so long my tools were all just so secondhand, but I am now getting to the point where I just have this one toolbox where even if I have the newer, better socket over there, I'm just by default. So if it is a quality item that lasts you long enough to make that bond. Yeah.
I'm going to plus one on one of the things that Duane said, even though he tried to disagree with me. If it has a battery, you buy the name brand.
Totes.
Okay,
Every
You know what I
time.
mean? Like
Yeah.
there is, but if you can't afford Milwaukee and Bauer, the Ryobi is a decent brand that you're going to be able to get parts for, and you're going to be able to get those new batteries for.
Yeah.
Harbor Freight, don't do that. For your don't do that for your battery items.
Yeah.
Jeff, I remembered what I was going to say back in the what was it, Altima, Nissan Sentra?
Sentra, yeah.
Flashback. I don't know why, but you think you can tell how well off someone is by their car? No. You can tell how well off they are by their garage. Okay, like the rich guy garage is on a different level completely. It's fully air conditioned. It's got it's got beautiful lighting. It's thousands
those
of
really
square
cool
feet.
floors.
It has really cool
concrete,
floors. It has
the
220
Bill Fisher
polished,
floors.
yeah.
It's got 220. Yeah,
Polished
it's got a
concrete.
big Jackass fan.
So yeah, it's not about the tool set. I mean, they have the tools too, but really that's how you know right away, is their garage.
I was gonna say, if it's organized, I don't know, it's a little sus.
If it's pretty.
If it doesn't look like it's kind of dirty, and I don't mean dirty like the mud is still on the floor, but like, even Chris and Chrissy, who are very fastidious and
signs
clean
of
everything,
use. Signs of use.
Mhm.
you can see that bench has been well used and well loved.
Right.
Yeah.
What's interesting is you don't need, obviously you don't need a nice shop to put out stellar work. There's a gentleman within the Porsche community, shout out to Jamie Tweet. He builds stuff in a garage that, there's like a dirt floor. There's no insulation. He's somewhere in Jersey. I think he freezes his butt off in the winter. The Porsches he turns out are beautiful. I mean, they're bar none some of the best home built Porsches on the market.
That's
so
amazing.
You don't need.
We'll have a link to that. I got to find it.
And this is a mindset too that I want to touch on just briefly, is like, oh, I need a Snap-on, whatever it is. I need this tool in order to do this job.
I'll get to the track as soon as I have these new shocks. I'll get to the track as soon as I have these new
and that's what I love about Lemons is like that mentality of you guys. What you guys do out there on the track is so admirable, because it does really reinforce that mindset of like, anybody can get out there, anybody can race. You don't need huge budget to have fun.
All right.
Well, but what you do need is a crew.
It helps though. It helps a lot.
Buddies. And
no, team after team after team has shown up knowing nothing about cars, but they just have the buddies, and they're there to experience it and have fun.
Can I say that you're hitting on something, Duane, that we actually talk about a lot, and it's managing your expectations. If you don't have the shop and the lift and the tools and the blah and the friends and the time and the everything else, you know what? You can still do these things. You just have to start on a smaller scale, and maybe not LS swap that 300Z that you're going to build your own cage into. You know what I mean? But start with the Nissan Sentra. That start with the basic commuter car.
That's why it's so important to keep it running the entire time, because that keeps you focused on attainable goals within that car project.
Yeah.
And then once you've mastered swapping out the wheels, putting on different tires, maybe suspension, then you're ready to move on, maybe a different intake, and it escalates to the LS swap or whatever it is.
Yeah. Make it run, make it pass tech, brakes, tires, and run it. Don't wait for that new coilover system, or but if we get the alignment, or if we
Well,
have
and
25 track
even
days, or
pulling it away from just, the enthusiast who can't even get into performance. Cause like I would have never been able to go autocrossing. I just liked having a fun, quick car. So, take the thing you say, get it running, make it past, tech or whatever your local safety standard is, and then just drive it. So, I would love to have this project car, but I can't afford to take everything down to a bare metal restoration.
Right.
Go buy an iffy one and make it less iffy. Rolling restoration, as they call it. Or
can I make a recommendation for your first project car?
Ooh, love it.
A Beetle, because they're cheap to fix. They've got cheap parts. They're cool. They've got manual transmissions, roll-up windows. They're basic. They're basic AF, right? And there's millions of them, and they've got a fantastic community.
There's millions of them where
Christ,
we
a
live.
Beetle in New Jersey.
There's not a whole lot, but he's 100% right, because I always still tease myself with the electric Beetle commuter car idea.
Ooh.
At any given time, there are 8 of them on Facebook Marketplace here for 5,000 or less that run and have titles.
Yeah.
Electric, fully EV conversion.
Yes. The company out of San Diego makes them. And when I have time, it's on my project list that I am actually working my way towards. I want, as an EV commuter car, some sort of air-cooled Volkswagen derivative, home-built EV.
Love it.
924 EV in your future.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
That would be holy.
We just built a
Write that
924
down, Jeff. 924.
Safari.
Yeah.
A
924
Safari
EV.
924 EV would be even better.
Oh, sign me up for that.
Go over speed bumps.
Yes.
So this is great, and I love the things we're talking on. Let's do some maybe safety tips for when you're on a budget or when you're starting out.
Is this leading to the next section, or did this just pop into your head?
I'm just spitballing things off the list.
Fair enough. Because what we do want to go to, and we've all touched on it, is if you're a young person listening to this, look, you're just, unless your parents are very tolerant and blessed enough to let you have space, you're going to wrench outdoors.
Yes. Great idea. Go ahead. Do that.
So, and honestly, it's almost a rite of passage, and either you're going to do it intentionally or you're going to do it on the side of the road unintentionally. Most likely, if you're listening to all of this, both, and we're sorry. But we've all learned some tips, even using our garage, that Jeff's going to touch on. And then we'll talk about some comfort things. One, old carpet samples, like those big squares, or thrown out, anything that is thrown out like rubber matting and stuff, rolls up kind of small and makes any time laying on dirt or rocks or gravel a little bit more comfortable.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, here's my tip on that. A piece of cardboard does not go into the recycle bin unless I assess, is that big enough for my fat ass to lay on it?
I was going to say cardboard. I'm glad you said that.
Yes.
So I love how Mental's like, if you're young, you're going to wrench outside. I am half a century old, and I do not have a place to wrench under a roof. And hey, I'm going to give Harbor Freight another call out. You got to have some kind of cover. I have a Harbor Freight 10 by 20 tent that's like little pipes that you put together.
And this is
like
the
an
New
erector
Jersey guy,
set.
because I absolutely guarantee you, I know I was going to say it. Dwayne was probably going to say, oh, and totally buy one of those expandable shades put over the engine.
Absolutely. Like, you need to be under some cover.
And they're like $30 used on Facebook Marketplace, and you can tape them when they break.
I paid $100 brand new for this 10 by 20 tent, and I put it up in my driveway, and that tells my neighborhood, Jeff is wrenching for the weekend. This is not an abandoned car. This will be on its wheels by Sunday, and
It's not the impact gun. It's the
exactly.
They're your neighbors, Jeff. They know that car is not going to be on the road by Sunday.
It'll be on the wheels, but it might not be on the road.
It's a roller, people. It's a roller.
But But when now here's another thing, and we talked about this. We didn't talk about this when we talked about the apartment, but the time when you're not wrenching near your toolbox, when your toolbox is 40 feet away from your car, the time of walking back and forth and back and forth. Like here's a tip. Mentalize for a tip. I set up a table. I set up all the tools I think I'm going to need for the job right next to the car under the Harbor Freight tent so that it doesn't get so hot. And if it rains, they don't get wet. And it saves so much time because if you have limited time and you're walking those tools back and forth every time you need a 12 or an 11 or a 17 and you got to walk back to that thing, you know what? You got to set up your tools so that you can grab that whole set and bring it next to the car and the whole
in my case, I just have my butler bring it to me, but I mean that works too. So
of course,
I have two repurposed
under the car.
I have
Jeeves, I need a 14.
Yeah.
Box end.
Excuse me, Jeeves is not handing you a 14. If you're lucky, you're going to get a 5/8 because he's Jeeves.
No, he would give you a metric.
I have got two, and I've actually had them for a while. I've got two repurposed pieces of furniture in my garage. One's like literally an old 70s wheelie TV tray that my buddy was getting ready to throw out.
I thought you were going to say a sex swing for like an engine hoist, but go
Nice.
on. Never mind.
Sign me up.
Yeah, but I took that and I just jokingly covered it in stickers, and that's because I can wheel it out there. And the joy or the importance also of having those tools laid out is you know exactly what tools you need to put everything back on. So you know as you're grabbing those tools, okay, yeah, here's this. Or if you bring out the entire set and you don't have, if you've got a set of box end wrenches or sockets and you don't have a case, you can still keep them on those plastic things and instantly know if you're missing any tools.
Yeah. All of my sockets.
So, you know, get them
live on
all
rails.
from underneath, you know, where you put them on the fender and up under the hood hinge.
Yep. All my sockets live in rails and all of my wrenches live in bags, even though I have a full size toolbox, because when I need metric, I grab that roll and I bring it out and I don't put it back in the toolbox until I know every slot is full.
Yep. That also makes junkyarding easier.
I want to say, Jeff, you're right, though. Safety is huge for someone starting out because God forbid you buy Harbor Freight jack stands. They recall them.
Easy. Yeah. Hey, whoa, hey, whoa, hey, whoa.
Yo, whoa.
I actually checked the serial numbers though. Yeah.
Yeah.
I have like 9.
Point is, like, you need to protect your hearing. You need to protect your eyes, and you need to protect your body from falling objects. That's the number one priority. No matter if you're wrenching on the side of the road, in a parking lot, in a carport, or in Jeep's Palace, wherever you're wrenching. Because when 50 rolls around and you're hearing a constant ringing in your head from not wearing hearing protection, you're going to regret not putting in those earplugs. So take it to heart.
And even, you look like a dork wearing the safety glasses, but the first piece of rust you have to sit there and pull out of your eye with a Q-tip that takes you.
It's brutal.
You're like, safety glasses don't care how I look anymore. Oh.
It's always like you're just unscrewing a bolt or something, and like a million pieces of rust fall right into your eyeball.
Yeah, I don't wrench on anything that's not rusty, so it's just
Jersey.
Absolutely. So and the new cars I don't really wrench on, so you know.
I like your point also about your skin too, because I've got an old denim shirt that I bought on sale at Walmart for $6 that if I know there's something likely to catch or grab, I just use that one so I don't trash any good shirts or, reach up there and get my forearm.
They call you Lino Ward, J. Lino Ward, with the denim. He's a full denim outfit.
That's called a Canadian tuxedo there. You know what? Here's some deals. If you are wrenching outdoors and you are dragging your jacks out and your jack stands out, you need to do those jack stands all the time, and you need a flat spot to wrench. Don't wrench on that gravel. It'll kill your back, but those jack stands will not be stable. So find that flat spot, find a place where you can wrench. I have a slightly cracked concrete driveway. I never wrench in the gravel.
If you're in Europe, go nuts. No safety is required because they have excellent free healthcare. Here in America, we have to be conscious about, like, putting the jack stands on maybe a piece of plywood on the gravel so that the car doesn't shift, and we have to go pay $25,000 for 5 stitches.
Yeah, that's a good one. Chrissy's the one that got us all wearing safety goggles, and every time I pull something chunk of metal off the safety goggles, I'm so glad she did. And it's interesting. You talk about the jack stands. Had a friend years ago was installing a stereo in his Jeep, and he didn't even have a jack stand. He had a bottle pump jack. And to get to what he was wiring up, he had pulled the front wheel off. And he's trying to do this wiring while this stupid, cheap pump bottle jack is slowly deflating. And he doesn't realize it when he tries to go out, but he's pinned, and then the jack just keeps letting the Jeep down onto his chest. So he's having a hard time breathing. And in the course of all this, the wires, because he didn't disconnect his battery cable, start smoking.
Of course.
Now he's trying to reach the fire extinguisher that is out of his reach. And he's kicked it with his foot, and he's trying to roll it towards him so he can put out the fire and then find the little tiny handle to the pop bottle jack and raise it back up. And it was all because he was trying to save 5 minutes. And the whole time he was thinking, they're going to tell stories about how stupid I died. So
good jack stands are cheap. Don't buy the cheapest ones you can find. Buy decent ones that you can trust. Stay clean, stay safe. What we should be wrapping this up soon. Any last minute thoughts on this topic, on limited resources or we've barely scratched the surface. Ladies and gentlemen, we are gonna. But
it's I like it. It's Duane says basically everything as your skill goes, so should your tool, so should your facility. So it's a multi-building block aspect.
We forgot the most important thing that kind of ties this all together, which is to have fun. If you're not having fun, you got to just walk away and be like, all right, I'm going to revisit this door seal tomorrow when I have a little more patience. It's about the enjoyment of the hobby. It's about the thrill of building and forming with your hands, or whatever it is, the cathartic, excitement that you get from building. So that should be, if you don't have that, it's not for you, I guess.
Okay. Or maybe just right now, go crack a beer, come back to it later.
Right. I mean, there's times when you're going to want to walk away and recognize that and do it.
Yeah. And I love that, because what Mental said earlier was, if you're not actually driving that car that you're working on for years and years and years, what is the value you're getting out of it? Now, if it's just that you want to be alone and away from the family in the garage and like not talking to other humans because you're getting that introvert like thing, that craftsmanship, great. You might not be a car guy. You just might happen to like wrenching on cars. Get out in it, drive it, have a good time.
And still be safe.
Be safe.
Here's a person that likes wrenching on cars. I'm not a car person. You still be safe. Don't lose an eyeball.
True.
Stay alive.
Geez, I'll hand you the wrench. It's fine. Don't worry about it.
Jeff, you found what we're going to talk about next. So I'm guessing it's a on the spot.
Sure, on the spot, around the horn. I don't know if you read the notes.
Well
maybe
done.
You know about it.
Well done. This is so ties into the entire topic.
Yeah. And Dwayne, thank you for chiming in here. What are you drinking there? What do you got?
Looks like a Mind Haze tropical.
Oh, very good.
Hopical cruise. Ooh.
Oh, you had me until hops. That's fine.
You don't like the hops?
I don't like the hoppy stuff, but that's okay. So, yeah, that's awesome. Let's talk about, thank you for coming. Let's talk about something else. Recently, eBay Motors, for some reason, sponsors Lemons. And for some reason, YouTube, I'm not going to say YouTube jerk off, because he actually seems like a pretty nice guy. Chris Fix has been, or OG YouTuber Chris Fix, because he's been around since I think before they monetized. They're working together. He's come out to some of the East Coast races. We've raced against him. He hasn't really done much, but seems like a nice guy. They had a the recent video where eBay Motors is now sending a box to every Lemons race, or will be soon, that is filled with things to help Lemons people fix their race car. And they put a
Nice.
call out to the community.
And let's be honest, it's a reward for frequently purchasing all of your sketchy car parts.
Absolutely.
Actually, I'm sorry, the car parts are fine. The cars are sketchy.
Yeah. So eBay Motors is going to send this box, this mystery box, to a Lemons race to help all the just clunkers get fixed. And they said, what should eBay put in the box? Now, Chris Fix immediately said zip ties, and Jay said Bondo, which I don't know who's putting Bondo in their race car because it doesn't need to look good. I wanted to
They
go.
eat it. It's a great
Yeah,
snack.
exactly. I wanted to go. It's very helpful for clogging that engine block hole. I wanted to go around the podcast and get a couple of suggestions. Maybe we'll do 2 rounds. What goes in the box? Not her head. Mental. What do you got?
All right, so it's eBay. They're not going to cheap out on this. So it's going to be a fairly large box, an engine hoist. Because how many times have we been at a Lemons race, Jeff, where somebody came by and said, "Hey, does anybody have an engine hoist?
Who's got an engine
Car-
hoist?
Car so-and-so's, on an engine hoist." And we've been doing this now since 2011. And there was a time when everyone brought their engine hoist, but now more and more people are using that space in the trailer for something else. So there's usually
Is it
one, maybe
one or two? Yeah,
And
exactly.
I'm not. And if eBay sent one, they could paint it all up like eBay, and it would call attention to itself as it was being drug across the gravel parking lot at 3 o'clock in the morning, waking everybody up.
Duane, no lie. Recent race, I was pulling the motor on. I needed to pull a motor on our RX-7 Wankel, not that big, and I searching for a hoist. I found a hoist. I said, "Hey, can I borrow the hoist from people I knew?" And they said, "You got to ask them. We borrowed it from them, and then you got to wait for them because they have it next." I literally was third in line for the town bicycle engine hoist.
Wow.
So eBay should have an engine hoist. They could paint it all
Mental-
up in eBay colors. And
This is the best idea ever, although I have one too. Duane, what do you think they should put in the box?
Oh man, maybe I'll just start a business where I rent engine hoists at the the next race. Oh, eBay. What did I just buy? I literally bought something on eBay today. I think it was SEM trim paint, but that's not really useful for the racetrack. Maybe like something the driver could wear, like safety equipment or something.
Oh, I
New
like
gloves.
this. Yeah.
because
Driving gloves.
someone always forgets their gloves or their
There you go.
or their Hans. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Here's what I thought of, and then we'll go around again if we can. The last week we talked about things that break on your race car and how to diagnose it, and the immediate thing I thought of was a Walbro 255 external fuel pump.
Wait,
it's a
external
part
what?
external fuel pump. So
Oh,
it's the inline fuel pump, the standard Walbro fuel pump that all of us run because they're dirt cheap, and the one in the tank probably died.
Yeah.
And this could really be fit onto
And
everything.
It is, and they made them for like a Ford Econoline van, so you can find them in the
everything.
junkyard for next to nothing. But they just work, and
They
so
just work.
That's
Put
why
a switch on the dashboard to switch to the external.
a lot
fuel
of people
pump.
just go straight to it. They go to an external fuel pump, and they either use an eBay Motors or a junkyard Walbro, usually a combination of both,
Yeah.
or an eBay junkyard version where somebody says, "Got this at the junkyard. I know what it's worth." And yeah,
Yeah, it's so many fuel pumps die at a Lemons paddock. So, all right,
I can
Menzel, you
imagine.
got a second one? You don't need a
God.
second one. I just
No,
thought you
yeah,
might have
yeah.
another one.
damn it. Oh,
Awesome. Oh,
I
go
do.
on.
All right, because it's a Lemons race. The low wheelie thing, the low crawler, like the one
like
that's
a-
molded out.
The
'cause
creeper,
the creeper,
the plastic
Creeper.
creeper.
because a lot
So
of
the
these
wheels are
cars-
like higher up.
yes.
Like the
Yeah.
dog bone shaped one. I think that's what they
Mhm.
call it, like the dog bone
Mhm.
creeper. Awesome. I like that. I'll give you one more, and then Duane, if you got one, we'll go back
Yeah.
to you again.
Okay.
Here's another one I thought of, and it is the Excel spark plug wires that are like make your own. You know, where it's
The
not for a
kit.
specific car, it's the kit for, we don't have one for your car, and you just clamp your own ends on, because so many people have electronic problems, and that'll fix, you know, oh, you need one coil wire? Here, take this and make it yourself. I think that's the way to go.
God, those
a
are
good one.
really both really good suggestions. Damn it.
Well, I loved your hoist suggestion.
Yeah, but like everything that, that would actually fit in a box that they would, I'm thinking crate.
Yeah,
All right.
I was thinking like toolbox size. All right, Duane, you got one more. I'm not going to put you on the spot.
This is really dumb,
Yes.
but a potpourri of stickers, because like the last thing you do is decorate your Lemons racer. Maybe it's the first thing, I don't know, but this is just a
Or-
box of
Well,
like
it's also a
cool
way
stuff
like,
that you can.
if you've got a caved in fender and you don't want to do the body work.
There you go.
Sticker it up. Yeah, yeah.
I'm thinking like giant ducks and whatever to stick onto your car and make it look cool. So
That's absolutely it. Well, Duane, thank you very much. I feel like we just met each
My
other
pleasure.
because we just did, but you seem like our kind of guy. I'm definitely going to be in the Vegas area at some point in the next year or two,
Nice.
and we will
on
definitely get
down.
together. Yeah,
absolutely.
absolutely.
And I need to
we'll-
get out to a Lemons race. I mean, that
Oh,
looks like
yeah,
so much fun.
You do.
I don't know
Yeah,
how I
absolutely.
haven't done that yet.
Hey, folks. So if you've got a Lemons racer for a long-legged individual who is quite gifted with a wrench and is looking to learn something about lemons, get a hold of us.
Mhm.
You're definitely not going to fit in some of our. Well, maybe the Mazda 3
Yeah, he'd fit in the
has-
3.
has
Yeah.
headroom, but the rest
he'd
of
fit
them.
he'd fit in the Failbird, the Omega. He's not
I
fitting in the
have
Solstice. So,
Contorted my body in unspeakable ways to get on Disneyland rides. So I feel like I should be able to make it work.
Wait, you have a 914. That's got to be some
I
top
know.
orders.
Oh God, this is not going to end well.
All right, last question for you, since you are a Porsche guy. Give me one good reason why I shouldn't own a 944. Because I keep asking my friends if I could buy a 944, and they say, "No, Jeff, you're not European car people."
I mean, the first reason is they're money pits and they don't resell. So if you're going to buy a Porsche, you buy a 911. That's the number one rule. If you can't afford a 911, I'd probably do a 928 or a 914, but not a 944. 944s have been ridden hard, put away wet. They're all used and abused because they were cheap for so many years. Same thing with the 924. It's the predecessor more or less to the 944. Now, if there's a good 951, a turbo 944
Yes.
that's got relatively low miles, go for it.
That if I won the lottery, GT4,
all right,
GT3,
you're
4S. Go on.
I know you're playing the music.
Oh, yeah.
Dwayne, where can everyone
sorry.
find you? We're gonna have your YouTube channel and of course the Dirt Eye podcast. Where else can folks follow you?
Instagram. I'm up on Instagram at Duane Wik. It's just my name, DuaneWik, and I post daily stories about working on cars. So if you're into that kind of stuff, give me a follow, and I'll probably follow you back.
Is there a dot
Fantastic.
between?
Nope, I think it's all together. Just DuaneWik.
I'll let you a little secret, Jeff. I've already
Okay.
got it. I just
Oh,
wanted
sorry.
it. I wanted the
I was-
video. I
I
see you
was
typing it
typing it
in. I'm
in.
like,
That's right.
I'm
Well, thank you, Duane, for
Yeah.
giving us all this great information. And I want to thank everybody listening for downloading us. We hope you enjoyed this week's edition of Everyone Racers. We also hope you'll join us in the world of driving, racing, and building, because everyone can be a racer, even you. If you enjoyed this podcast, subscribe. If you're watching on YouTube, right down there in the doodly-doo, why don't you type to us? If you have any questions or show ideas, drop a comment on our Facebook page, Everyone Racers. Email us at everyone.racers@gmail.com. You can still text Mental. Ask him what's up with that hair and the chin mullet, or at 484-243-0455, or send him pictures of your junk.
got pictures this week of Tyler Stink's new exhaust on his MX3.
Oh, very good. The Evil
Sweet.
Egg. Find us on Instagram or Twitter at everyone.racers, YouTube, Facebook, Everyone Racers, even Reddit at /E1R. Thanks again, and until next week, keep the shiny side up. Unless it's that crappy and there is no shiny side, then just keep those wheels down.
Cool.